Coming up on DFE News, New York City looks to be in for some big changes. Democrats run the table in East Coast elections. Also, one of the longest serving members of Congress is calling it a career. How will you remember her leadership? And hope your travel plans are locked in. The government shutdown means airports are making massive flight reductions. We've got news for you, those stories and more right now on DFE News. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on DFE News, News Done Right. I'm Jeff Kirk. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment so everyone gets to see DFE News. So much is going on. Let's get right to it. Multiple states had Election Day this past Tuesday, and Democrats won some key positions along the East Coast. In Virginia, Democrat Abigail Spanberger defeated Republican Winsome Earl Sears for the role of governor. Spanberger, who is white, received endorsements from former President Barack Obama and the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, over former U.S. Marine Winsome Sears, who is black. Also in Virginia, Jay Jones, the man you may have heard, sent text messages saying he would put 2 bullets in the head of his opponent, Jason Miyares, as well as wishing for the death of Miyares' children, won the election for Virginia Attorney General. Perhaps the biggest news is out of New York, as self-professed communist Zoran Mamdani won the election for mayor of New York City over former governor Andrew Cuomo. Mamdani promised on the campaign trail to make living affordable for New Yorkers through actions like rent control, free bus service, and government-run grocery stores, as well as vowing to raise taxes on the rich. Republicans are saying their losses in these elections don't mean they're losing popularity and still feel confident for the midterm congressional elections next year. Speaking of Congress, longtime California Representative Nancy Pelosi has announced her retirement next year. The 85-year-old Pelosi, who has served in Congress since 1987, announced her retirement in a post on X saying, "I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative." Pelosi was the first ever female Speaker of the House, a role she held for 8 years in total. Over the years, she clashed with Republicans, including President Trump, as well as some Democrat members of Congress to her left, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. In response to the announcement, President Trump called Pelosi an evil woman and said she did a great thing for the country by retiring. The president also said he was very honored she impeached him twice and failed miserably twice. On Truth Social, Trump said she was a disaster for America and that he's, quote, glad to see the stench of Nancy Pelosi go. Pelosi also earned a reputation as a rather shrewd investor. The New York Post reports that she earned more than $130 million in stock profits during her time in Congress, a 16,930% return on investment. The Supreme Court has been hearing arguments this week about President Trump's tariffs and whether or not he can issue them by executive order. Reporters described the court's mood during oral arguments Wednesday as skeptical of the president's authority to impose tariffs in a series of executive orders earlier in the year. Challengers say the tariffs exceed the president's authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. That act gives the president power to regulate commerce during national emergencies created by foreign threats. Trump's lawyers argue the existing trade deficits with other countries, combined with heavy drug trafficking, had brought the U.S. to the brink of an economic and national security threat, so the actions were justified. Both the Trump administration and the challengers have asked the court to move quickly in deciding the case, but there's currently no indication of when the court will make a decision. Well, battling cancer is never a pleasant thing, but when you do, it's good to have friends in high places. Scott Adams, creator of the famous Dilbert comic strip, recently announced he suffers from metastatic prostate cancer, the same type of cancer as former President Biden. In a recent episode of his Coffee with Scott Adams podcast, Adams detailed his frustrations with his medical care and directly asked the Trump administration for help. We'll let him describe what happened next.
So I was contacted by Don Jr., who was literally in Africa. He's in Africa on a Sunday. And Don Jr. is calling me and saying, "Leah, I'm on this. My father wants me to, get this done." Then Bobby Kennedy calls me Bobby Kennedy calls me. Like, what can I do? What's the situation? Dr. Oz calls me. Dr. Oz, what's the situation? How can I help? Oh my! And then you may have seen that President Trump, best president ever, he posted my message to him that was on X yesterday. It was a public message, and he just said, "On it, on it." He was so on it. Oh my God, was he on it?
Following the administration's actions, Adams said his medical provider suddenly had time to schedule him, and he's begun his new treatments. We wish him the best. Hopefully, you weren't planning any air travel this weekend. Airports have cut a huge amount of flights because of the government shutdown. The FAA made a 10% reduction of flights at 40 airports, including some of the busiest, like Atlanta Hartsfield, Boston Logan, and Baltimore Washington International. In a news conference, FAA Administrator Brian Bedford said the reduction is a proactive measure to lower pressure on air traffic controllers and make sure the national airspace continues to operate at the highest levels of safety. Fox Business reports the shutdown has forced about 13,000 air traffic controllers and 50,000 TSA agents to work without pay. With no end to the government shutdown in sight, the possibility remains for more reductions in air traffic in the coming weeks leading up to the Thanksgiving holiday. And finally, do you like to make homemade soup? It's one of my favorite comfort foods, but I can't say I ever use quite the same ingredients as the chef in this next story. A mom in Merced, California had just come inside from feeding the dogs to find the family's foster cat, Wendy, staring and meowing at the pot of soup on the stove. A review of camera footage from the kitchen showed little Miss Wendy had added her own contribution to the family dinner, a mouse that she had caught. Oddly, Wendy's move came just a month after videos of cats adding mice to the family soup started trending on the internet. The family says they decided to order takeout for dinner instead. The little thing just wanted to contribute to the family with a little bit of extra protein. It was a gift. The respectful thing to do would have been to, you know what, never mind. Nope, takeout was the right call. Sorry, Wendy. That's it for now. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, and engage with us so that YouTube and all the socials push it out to more viewers. If you're interested in becoming a DFE sponsor, you can click on the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. Thanks for watching DFE News. News done right. See you next time.